Hello, this is Shwa, and you are watching Light Up with Shwa. My guest today is, well, you can't see him yet, but I really respect him for what he is, what he has done, and I think you will enjoy our conversation. And please subscribe, review, rate, and share this interview with him. So here is Mahmood Jafri from Dover Rugs. And Mahmood, please tell me who you are, your full name, and what do you do?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show. It's a meaningful work that you're doing, and it's important to bring the kind of guests that you do bring and share the message and the values that we have, especially more so now than ever before. So thank you very much. My name is Mahmood Jafri. I'm a CEO of Dover Rug and Home, which is, as you may know, a home furnishings, rugs, carpeting.
Tell us. That's okay. There might be some people who would like to have some rugs and home furnishings, but yeah, that's why it's a very flourishing business. So I want you to talk about it a little.
Sure. Our roots are obviously in imports and manufacturing. Coming from Pakistan, that was a natural phenomena or a business to be in. And over the years, we have expanded into other products and other services. Not to mention, we have done something related to Pakistan, but completely unrelated to rugs, which is a squash and a fitness club, which is sort of part and parcel of the culture and the values that I have coming from Pakistan. That was natural to do. We have 3 locations. Our flagship store is in Natick, which is about 36,000 square feet, and also with a squash and a fitness club. We have 1 store in Boston, in Back Bay on Stewart Street, which my son runs. So it is a family enterprise.
We'll be coming on to that.
Okay. And our 3rd location is in Burlington. And it's the kind of work that I love to do. It encompasses my heritage, my culture, and brings in my business acumen. And I think it's the best of both worlds. I'm connected to my background, and I'm earning a living.
Connected to your present home.
Correct.
Yes.
My adopted home,
Yes.
and well, this is my home now.
Yes, yes. So are the squash and fitness facilities in other 2 locations as well?
No, it's only in Natick.
Okay.
Squash and fitness facilities require certain space and a design, and so it's very difficult to incorporate that into a retail environment unless you design the building exactly, which we did in Natick when we acquired. It used to be a bowling alley.
Oh, okay.
It has been an icon in the community for a very long time. It was called Fairway Bowling, and it was the birthplace of Candlepin Bowling, where Channel 5 used to broadcast live from there. So there's a little bit of sports history to that location, so we maintain that squash.
So tell me about how did you get into this business, and what can you advise to the upcoming entrepreneurs from an entrepreneurial point of view, from an individual point of view? Like, would you recommend the young people or somebody looking to come into this business to opt for it or maybe look into it?
I think it's a great business for young people to come into.
Okay.
It's a kind of a business that most young people are either not aware of it, or because they don't know enough about it, they kind of go to other natural, normal options like high tech and other kinds of businesses. But frankly, once they learn about the business, they realize that it has some very important factors that make you successful in any business. Number one, it's not a very competitive environment. There are only a handful of people who are doing this kind of work.
In Boston area, you mean, or
generally? In US in general.
Okay.
It's an artistic kind of work. So if you have passion for it, if you have love for it, you are able to engage your creative energies, and that will help you stand apart from the competition. So, and you're also not competing with big boxes and the big businesses. That's a major challenge these days, is that the corporate America is out of control. And the days of your family businesses and young entrepreneurs making a difference is becoming harder and harder. But with the same token, if you are in a field, if you are in a business which is hard for the big boxes to get into, which is this business, because this business requires individual attention, passion, creativity, and you cannot mass merchandise what we do, which is very difficult for big boxes and big businesses to do, because their model works on large volume, mass marketing, mass merchandising. So any young person who has a desire to be in a more creative, artistic field, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity.
What is the like degree, or what kind of work they should be doing before to get into this? Is there a particular degree that they should be in?
I think there are 2 or 3.
Because I know that you are not. You did engineering or something.
No, MBA.
Oh, okay. You did MBA. Okay.
So,
yeah. So that works.
Right. So basically, there are 3 areas that help you do well in this business. Of course, if you have a business degree, if you have a business background, if you have passion for business, that is a required expertise that is needed. That is helpful. The second one is if you have an artistic background. So, for example, if you have a degree in textile design or graphic design or anything which is creative, anything that has to do with colors, designs, and scale, interior design, all of those are extremely helpful. Or simply having a desire to make a difference in people's lives, because the kind of work that you do, you're actually really getting into the lives of families and individuals, how they live, what their passion is, what makes them tick, and you do it space by space. You know, what you do in a dining room is different than what you do in the living room. So these minor little details sort of help you get into the lives of people in a very intimate way.
That's interesting that you're connecting at different levels with people. It's not only as an individual, but you are connecting and getting into their homes. You know,
and in their lives, because you know they share with you that, look, you know, I have an elderly mother, and you know, she likes this, and I'm concerned about this, this, and this, and so it's amazing. You know, one would think that buying a rug is an easy
just a simple thing, go get and get it, right?
It's actually not, but it's also very interesting.
That's why I'm still thinking. It's taking me longer. That's good.
Wonderful.
That's good. Thank you so much. So I'll touch upon a little bit on parenting from this angle, like how do you balance work and you know, life, work and home life. I understand your children are older, but you have been doing this for how long?
Oh my God, the retail end of the business, we've been at it for almost 30 years.
So your children are in 20s?
No, well, one of them is, and 2 of them are 31 and 32.
So I guess when you started, they were younger.
Yes.
Or they
yes,
were not there, or they were younger.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So how did you balance that?
It's actually, you know, to me, family and business are not 2 separable faculties or pursuits or challenges. I think your values and your lifestyle has to be the same. It's not that once you go home, miraculously you change, you wear a different hat and you become a father or a husband or a brother or a uncle. And then when you show up at work, you're a different person.
Right.
So I mean, because that's where the conflicts happen. If you try to be other than who you really are, either at home or at work. So I think once you understand that the way you want to treat your family is the same way the way you want to treat your customers, the people you do business with.
So it's very close to your heart then. It's not just a business.
Well, I think it has to be. I mean, and because it's a family driven business, all the way from making it to marketing it. You know, a rug is made in a family environment. Most of these, it's cottage industry. most of the looms are set up in private homes.
Okay.
It gives the opportunity for family to be together, and it's a social experience also. You're drinking tea, you're chit-chatting, you're weaving a rug, you do it on your time, you know, and at your availability, and the family stays together also. And that's why families take pride in what they have created. And that's why you see some rugs which are
Very-
signed by the weavers because they are so proud
So-
of their work.
And passionate about their that
Exactly.
individual piece,
That's right.
artistic piece, like
And those
Yeah.
designs and colors
yeah.
stay in the family forever, and
Yeah.
they guard it and they protect it because that's their proprietary work. And so that's from the manufacturing side. But once it comes into the marketing side, same thing happens. Is that once again you're dealing with homes, you're dealing with families, you're dealing with lifestyles.
So you were aware of the business, and you were able to take care of your family and be there for your children, keeping in mind that if I'm just out there, I'm taking care of other families. I shouldn't be neglecting my own children. You have 3 children, right?
Yes.
3
Yes.
young, grown-up.
Well, they're not that young anymore.
Well, they are younger
I
than
mean-
us.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so let me come to this now.
Okay.
Okay. So, which role are you more comfortable, being yourself or being a businessman, entrepreneur, a father? Any particular title that you like for yourself?
I think the title that I love the most is a decent human being, an upstanding citizen, a caring person, a person that makes a difference in people's lives. When I leave the room or when I leave this world, I want people to remember me as somebody who made a difference in their life, inspired them, took them to higher levels, provided inspiration and guidance. That's how I see myself in all of the above roles. And these
Okay.
roles are interchangeable, but the basic values stay the same.
Yeah.
whether
So these
you are-
values can be reflected in different, as a
Absolutely.
father, as a friend, as an entrepreneur.
entrepreneur.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Excellent. So, where did you learn to solve the problems? Because I'm learning that we all are not really equipped to solve the life problems. I'm sure you have issues when you're dealing with businesses and all. So, just a short, brief answer about: is there a trick to it? Did you learn, or did you figure it out? What can you advise us?
I can't take credit for saying that I figured it out. And
For yourself, I guess. For
Right.
yourself.
well, I had some very good mentors and guides who sort of helped me through the maze of the world. You know, starting from my grandfather and my father and uncles, and once again it goes back to the family values. These were men and my aunts, and these were men and women who had very high expectations of who we should be, and their value system was very grounded, and grounded in the sense of integrity and honesty and sense of right and wrong, and always doing the right thing as the number one criteria, and money.
So
and
you think that you learned being in their environment? That's
in
how
their
you learned?
environment,
Okay.
with discussions with them. I
Yeah.
mean, one of the, every child gets some kind of a time out or punishment. Ours used to be that we had to write either a poem or an article
that's
or
interesting.
something, and then present it in front of all the cousins and all the friends, and so it forced you to think and document and
Instead of
write.
punishing you, and that's a good way to punish. I mean,
Exactly,
if that's
and-
the punishment.
And the punishment actually came from the people who you were presenting this to, because they were very harsh critics.
Oh,
of-
okay. What did you write, right? Is it presented well?
and
Okay.
and the and the feedback and the critique was instant also.
Okay. Okay. Do you think you are a good problem solver?
I think so. Problem solving in some ways is a mechanical process. I mean, I think once you have a little bit of intellect and some practical experience, and the more decisions you make, the better you become at it. And
Yeah,
that's why we're
that's what
called
I'm-
decision makers.
So you should have more chance. So if somebody does mistake, let's say being a parent, so you see your children going through mistakes, should they never do mistakes, or should they go through it in order to become a problem solver?
You know, I look at children's mistakes as a rite of passage. That's something that they are entitled to. And then there's something called power of failure, where a child learns from a failure. I mean, there's only so much protection you can provide to a child, but then you're raising a child in a bubble. But that's not how the real world lives.
No, definitely not.
Also, sometimes the parents need correction. Sometimes it's the parents who need the change. I mean, a perfect example is our immigrant generation.
Yes.
The first landed immigrants.
And you are one of them.
I'm one of them.
Yes.
We are the ones who have to make the change. As far as the children are concerned, they are very happy, normal, natural in their environment. This is where they're born. This is where their value system is going to be. This is where their frame of reference is going to be. And for us to think that we're going to take them back to the old country, that's going to be very difficult, and it's not fair. You know the old saying that I would much rather deal with and celebrate and accept the land that I'm living on, where my children and grandchildren will be playing, as opposed to the land where my grandparents are buried.
That's a good saying. Yeah, makes sense.
So we
That's-
need to look to future.
That's a good.
We need to
lesson, I
look at
guess.
we need to look at what their challenges
Yes,
are, and that's how
yes.
you solve their problems.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Well, that was good.
Thank you.
Some different leg of questions, and then I'll come to the last. What, being an entrepreneur and being a parent of grown-up children, grown-up adults, I said, what are the things that money can't buy? What have you learned? That it's a simple question, but I would want you to say it so that sometimes we'll need reminders.
You know, in my own self and in my family situation, and frankly, money has not been able to buy me a whole lot of things. And maybe because the things that I'm looking for are either priceless or money just simply cannot buy.
Okay.
I look at it the other way. There are only a handful of things that money can buy me.
Okay.
And that's exactly how I treat money, is that, okay, I have to buy gas, I have to pay my rent, I have to pay my food, and you can pretty much count on one hand the number of things you need the money for. Rest of it, money cannot buy. And I think...
And what is the rest of it? That's
Oh
where
my God.
I want you to say that. I want to,
Well,
yeah.
the list is very long.
Yeah.
For example...
Few,
I-
2, 3.
Okay, I want to be able to have the vision and the patience and the ability to understand people and make a difference in their lives. I do it. I think I've been good at it, but I think I can certainly improve. Money cannot buy you that.
Okay.
Your ability to be a human being which has a really airtight value system that can't be broken, you know, that DNA that we have. And I'm not saying to be at the level of the prophets, but, you know, money can't buy you that.
So, yeah, this is good. Thank you. Yeah, you were right. So there are some values that, you know, some you mentioned. So some people do say that you can buy anything with money, the values and everything, because if you want to twist something, you pay for it and, you know, get your way. And it happens all the time in every country, in every background. But do you agree with that?
I think that's a short-term solution. I think that's what marketing is, that's what Madison Avenue is, that you hire Madison Avenue and ad agencies, throw some money at it and change the values. And I mean, unfortunately, that's what happened in our elections also, is that we were able to use technology and money to be able to change the opinions and the thinking of the people, and look where we are.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think those are all short-term. Yes, you can use money in a transactional situations, but when it comes to higher goals in life, I don't think it has
That's
ever
it.
worked.
Okay, thank you. Let's come to you a little more. Like, what do you like about yourself?
Oh, humility is a challenge for
Humility. And what would you like to change about yourself, if there is anything?
there are plenty of things that I would like to
So
change.
that shows humility is there. That he's ready to change.
Well, change is also a prescription for survival.
Yes.
And I think that probably is one of the things that I would want out of life is the ability and the vision and the patience to change and change for the better. And once again, be a good role model.
Have you changed anything recently? Can you share with our audience anything that you thought that you, you're not too old, but you're not too young. So wherever you are you still able to change something?
Well, I'm about to embark on a major change that I'm embracing and celebrating. I mean, from being a very independent person, I'm going to be a grandfather.
Ooh, congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Nice.
And once again, I have role models. I've seen my older brothers go through that process and they are enjoying it. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that's going to be the next big change in my life.
Wow, that is a big change. That is a big change. So let's see. Maybe we should have the grandchild and him interview them and see how do they do, right? Okay. Do you think you have understood yourself, known yourself all these years? Have you reached a point that you think that you know yourself?
Interesting you asked that question. Most people are afraid of aging and getting old. I have actually become more comfortable as I have gotten older.
Mm-hmm. And why so?
Well,
Why is
because I think there was this wonderful transformation. I don't know at what point it happened, but you sort of have this realization is that, something, I'm not on this planet to impress anyone. I have to live my life. I have to be comfortable with myself. And I need to free myself of all the demons that humans come to this world with or develop over a period of time. So I would say that is where I see the challenge.
That's good. So you don't know when that happened. Is it recent? Do you think everybody has their own timeline to come to this?
I think so. I think some people are fortunate to get to that line
earlier,
yeah. and some people get to it late, and unfortunately some people never get to it.
That's true too.
And the sooner that you get to it,
it's better.
The better you
will be.
You and everyone around
you. Yep. All right. Thank you. So that means comes to in the same line of questions that you do accept yourself the way you are. Are you harsh on yourself, or are you, getting easier with yourself?
I think I am. I'm very competitive with myself.
Okay.
And I see competitiveness with yourself as another form of excellence. In order to reach excellence, you need to compete with yourself, not necessarily with your neighbor or your co-workers or your competitors. But I think if you are competitive with yourself, which goes back to all the way from the Sufism, where if you have the ability to free yourself of the demons and the egos and the negative competitiveness, you're going to rise above the norm. Buddha and Nirvana and all of these schools teach you the same thing, and I believe in that. That being competitive with yourself is good, but the same competitiveness with other human beings can be a challenge.
In that line, I would ask, would you suggest any way, how do you maintain good relationships? Any tips for us?
Good relationships with
people,
the world.
World. Any example that you think is conspicuous in your life that you have a better relationship with, and you can give us a secret about it. Why is it so?
I think, it's a delicate balance. When you are in a relationship or when you have friends and family around you, on one hand, you want to be a positive influence in their life and be inspiration and a good mentor and a guide. And on the other hand, you also want to give them that space where they subscribe to it, they own it, and that's.
So that can be applied to any relationship?
I would say, yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
because what happens is that if you play by those rules, it turns into a give and take. And then I will give you positive energy, and in return, you will give me positive energy. But you will only give me back positive energy if I gave you the space where
To
you came to that
yeah.
conclusion on your own, as opposed to being forced into it, and vice versa. So I mean, human relations are a delicate transactions,
Yeah.
and they have to be dealt with in that same manner.
Okay. Well, in the interest of time, I will have to come to last leg of questions, and I would like to ask you, what is the value of gratitude in your life?
Oh, that is a huge part of my life. Frankly, that's the first thing I do is when I get up in the morning is to say thanks to God and I look at things. I'm walking, I'm driving, I see situations, and I see, my God, what a wonderful world we are living in, and this is not.
So you know how to appreciate little things.
Oh,
of the day.
absolutely, absolutely.
Still you do that. Wow.
Oh my God.
Not that you're old.
No, all the way from little spontaneous natural children
Okay.
to landscapes to I do a little bit of bird watching.
Oh,
and
nice.
So
Okay.
I mean, simple things in life are, they are constant reminders around you. We just have to
appreciate.
have, exactly.
Yeah.
Some of us have our eyes in our stomach, and we only can see within the confines of our stomach.
Yeah.
But if your eyes are attached to your brain, then you're going to see things that you wouldn't otherwise, and you will appreciate and enjoy life a lot more.
So I want you to put the answer in this last question of give a message of hope and tell me what lights you up.
My
Yes.
message of hope is, I'm going to quote Rumi,
Okay.
that in this world of wrongdoing and the right doing, there's another field in the middle. Let's meet there.
Wonderful. Thank you. And what lights you up? That's my main question, last question.
The inspiration that I receive from the great masters of our times like Rumi and
Jalaluddin Rumi, yes.
Jalaluddin Rumi,
Nice,
he's
very
one of
well
my-
known, yes.
Yes.
He's-
I read a lot, mostly Persian and Urdu literature,
Okay.
and I see that you have a book on
Yes.
Iqbal. and these are some of the people who inspire me, and
Okay.
I look to them for guidance and answer. And of course, my religion is very important to me, Islam.
We'll talk about it next time, about Islam and Rumi and all. So thank you so much. Thank you very
Sure.
much for coming
Thank you. It was
and
a pleasure.
for all your time.
My pleasure. My pleasure. No, this was very good and valuable.